Hello, hello, and welcome back to Minotaur Hotel. I don't remember what happened in the last scene. Oh well. Morning cracked his skull open, but no dream slipped out in a sprint. The bedroom seemed just the same as it had always been, so cramped it threatened to crush him. Walls so white they burned his eyes, and shelves decorate and shelves decorated with jeans, bug-eyed carvings. That's it. Oh, he remembered to breathe, then bit his tongue. The pain came without hurry, dull and throbbing. But the Minotaur's eyes felt different, as if overnight they skipped autumn and dove into winter. If the mind were a muscle, it would be hobbling about, aching with overwork. Asterion told himself to look to the door, but didn't. Stared up, told himself to look toward the doorframe. Remember to breathe, prayed the hybrid. He drew a breath, told himself to get up, but didn't. He clenched his hands, felt nails sinking into his palm. There were obsidian husks tied to his limbs, waist, eyes. Even each fold of his brain was weighed down with hooks. If the gods had sent him a shred of mercy, such weight could have crushed him entirely and ended his existence, but they made him strong and resilient to bear the load. This vessel was not made to break, he knew, even if the creatures of this realm were so eager to try. The only movement made as he finally drew his eyes to the side was an aimless clenching and unclenching of hands. There had been many times over his everlasting existence when Asterion's spirit had felt emptied of vigor or substance like this. At least a handful of times per year for the last 2 millennia, without fail, although time became mushy inside the cold room. But it had not always been the case. He couldn't afford such bland indulgence when creatures chased him. Perhaps it was a jest from the gods themselves. He remembered to breathe. When a human came who sought to end his trials, yet another punishment came, this time from his own mind. But enough dawdling, little star. You must rise again, regardless. There is a delay between commanding his body to move and having it muster the will to obey. He pushes himself up with the clumsiness of a marionette, willing against an inertia in his brain. There is an amount of breathing room between each limb's movement to get himself up, as if all of the forces gained from a night of sleep is required. He gazed at the mirror. Welcome back to your old self, little star. Are you ready to see the internet? Witness the latest creations of human ingenuity. They never stopped. These sharp-eyed humans. What an intricate creations their fine fingers craft. Asterion looked at his own hand, at the knobbly knuckles and thick nails, each knot tied with rough, ragged ropes. Yes, of course. Great. This is a tablet. It's a kind of computer that uses touch controls. By which I mean you just tap on the screen. It's very intuitive. I can't see anything. Am I doing it wrong? No, it's fine. I haven't unlocked it yet. Here, just press the button and... I took the liberty of setting it up for you. Knowing you have a hard time with fine movements, I made sure things were as big and easy to tap. Do you think these are large enough? I can expand the icons more still.
Thank you, sir. This is adequate. Although I had hope I didn't impose on you a chore. Was setting it up difficult?
Not at all. Tablets all come with accessibility settings. Tailoring it to your needs is a trivial matter. Accessibility. Only humans can fathom such a thing. The gods had no love or care for Hephaestus and his imperfections.
Oh, this is very kind of them. Thinking about the disgracefully uncoordinated like me.
The man looked down to the hybrid. Asterion gazes at his eyes. He never understood why people had such a fascination for the color of each other's irises. To him, the white surrounding them was much more enthralling. Nature had been kind to him in that regard, at least. Rather than the beady blackness of cow's eyes, he had been blessed with a fine pair of human ones. Whites and all. Perhaps it was something in the way Mr. Josh's eyes hesitated as he searched for words, or maybe it was the Minotaur's brain slipping up for a second. But before Mr. Josh could speak, the Minotaur felt a few centuries worth of age lifting from his back. I wouldn't put it like that. Lots of people have injuries or special needs, but regardless of that, everyone gets old someday. We will all need the help. He chewed on it. The tone was kind. The master spoke almost like singing. But as the words were sewed together, they became thorny. Asterion bit his tongue. Was he old? Or perhaps old in the same sense that a human could be? His body was the best it had been in 80 years, but all the time spent in the cold room never left him as tired as this. It was the kind of exhaustion that made even opening one's eyes an insurmountable task. Or, old or disabled, the Minotaur needed his accessibility invented.
Do I have special needs, or am I just old?
Asterion mumbled it. His tongue felt bloated today. He had to grind his teeth to stop it from peeking out of his mouth. The master could not distinguish what he said. Sorry, what did you say?
Moo.
The master's eyes scrutinized him. They appreciated every feature of his face, as if trying to glimpse into the Minotaur's mind. His heart skipped a beat. Will he realize how disposable a toy Asterion is? The hybrid cannot say what would come next, but it must be better than his feeling of being suspended and awaiting for trial. Are you feeling well, Asterion? You seem a bit distressed today. Asterion looks away and draws a breath. His tongue tightens, and his mouth opens his mouth, leaving it hanging. In fact, as what he meant to say escapes him. He blinks, lets his eyelids fall as he exhales. It's so hard thinking with all those hooks on his brain. He has to string every word together, and then break it all down into mouth movements, exhales and inhales, glances and hand gestures. And the delay is there, making it all worse, a gap as the sea is deep and just as dark. But when he closes his eyes and follows himself to dream, images flow like water from a spring. The master felt warm last night. Hugging him was not the trial the Minotaur expected. His mind went silent as they stayed locked together in the dark. Asterion nuzzled his nose on top of Mr. Josh's head. He did not recoil. While it lasted, Asterion did not think of how awkward his hands could be. Closing all his fingers together, it stopped being an uncoordinated claw. It became just a hand. When he readjusts his legs, he didn't even hear the clop of his hooves. All the noises eating away at the edge of at the edges quieted down, muffled by Violet. The master was generous. He went through great lengths to get the wine and what he gained from it. Asterion bites his lips. It's his tongue? Tongue, yes. Perhaps one more trust is warranted. Perhaps some more trust is warranted. The Minotaur opened his mouth and drew a breath. The images sprung forth, and words chained themselves together. By the gods, I should tell him that it feels like I'm turning to stone. Mr. Josh must know what it means and what I should do. Asterion? But there must be a catch to him. There always is one. Are you okay? But regardless, he is not unkind. If I am to serve him and to perform this duty well, perhaps he knows how I can be better, how I can be made better. I should tell him. A warm hand, a hand warms the Minotaur's forearms. You don't seem too well. The Minotaur looks up to the human. His eyes are unmoving, not afraid or sad, but looking through the master, as if trying to focus on his face was too difficult to command. The Minotaur draws a breath and speaks before a kinder part of his mind can take control.
I'm just struggling to wake up. I'm just struggling to wake up.
Oh, it's true. We haven't eaten anything yet. How about I teach you some of the basics, and then I go down to get last night's leftovers. I hid some of the appetizers in the lounge's fridge. Asterion grunts, not really listening, just asserting his vague and ever-present agreement to whatever the master has to say. Okay, so just recapping, with a computer, we can access the internet and find all sorts of stuff. Do you remember what the internet is? A question. Asterion's eyes shift. The internet. Yes, pulling the strings. Pull the words from your mind and speak.
It's a way to get knowledge very quickly. It would take months for a book or letter to be delivered, but with internet, it won't take long. Did I get it right?
Yep. Let's start then. Now I want you to tap on the icon to the left corner. Could you do that for me?
Just tap it with a finger.
That's right. There's no mystery to it. Just tap tap.
Okay, like this.
So, what do you want to search first?
I don't know. How do I tell it what I want to know?
Just tap here, in the little white bar, and now the keyboard will pop up.
These symbols, are they normal?
What do you mean? The keyboard should show the alphabet. It's nothing out of the ordinary.
Oh no, I think I broke it.
What? No way. You haven't done anything wrong.
Is my finger bad? Did I touch it wrong?
The screen looks normal to me. The Minotaur glares at the screen, trying to make sense of all the symbols. What odd lines they are, but they do awaken a sense of familiarity. His brain itches as it struggles to connect together an ancient mind with more recent knowledge. His ears flick. He hears a racket of metal mechanisms tick-tacking and reeling down the cramped bedrock. It was coming to him. The name of the machine, a typewriter. They had been such an issue. The letters themselves had no meaning, no soul behind them. The hotel's translation could do nothing to impose order. During all the millennia, the Minotaur had spoken the language of his people, without care to learn whatever new tongue was the fad at the time. Although, to be more precise, for a good few centuries he had developed into the habit of making new words. So much so that this old had become quite unlike what he spoke as a child. But it all changed when typewriters were invented. The letters alone eluded him. He had to learn another language, an alphabet then.
Ah, this is a typewriter. The hotel doesn't like them.
Oh, why is that?
It can only understand meanings and words, not what they are made of. It all breaks down.
Oh, is that something I can do then? I can read and type for you. It wouldn't be an issue. He drew a breath. The more he looked at the alphabet, how similar it was to what the Greek invented, the less he felt the hooks on his brain.
I can remember the letters. The words, too.
He tapped the screen. He meant to press the O, but tapped the P instead. An old annoyance. Simpler days returned to his mind, when Jean was still alive, and they were drafting contracts down to the bedrock. He never mastered the typewriter, but he was decent enough to use it, slowly. He could conquer it again.
I can face this.
Mr. Josh continues, staring at the Minotaur. Is that a twinge of worry? Then it grows soft. His voice, as soon as it comes out, sounds like velvet. Of course you can. You've kept this hotel running for so long. Memorizing an alphabet won't be that hard for you.
Excuse me, what did you say?
You've kept this place up and running, right? Masters come and went, but you were the constant. You're very competent and hardworking. That's clear to me. Hardworking. The gods had made him strong to carry a load no regular man could. He was a beast of a burden. Yes, Asterion could take pride in that. You deal with the guests, manage check-ins and check-outs, repair the bedrooms, and even cook if necessary. And late last night, you went as far as providing entertainment. We've just reopened the hotel, and it's already doing so well, in no small part thanks to you. Is memorizing an alphabet a difficult task to someone as quick-witted as you? The hotel is doing well, the Minotaur thought. In any other context, bitter thoughts would pop into his mind. No, the hotel is still a shell of its former self. We are only housing a dozen or two guests. We barely have any staff. But when it comes to this subject, his mind was unclouded. The hotel was doing well. Repairing such a big place is less than 2 weeks was nothing short of a miracle. Guests coming around now wouldn't even imagine the place had been left in ruins for 80 years. This was his one good thing. Whatever violence and disgrace the gods saw it fit to impose on him came twofold as blessings for his home. He would serve well if it meant the prosperity of one good thing.
I am proud of the hotel.
Look at this smirk. What? Okay. The Minotaur's voice rumbled, followed by a harsh snort and flicking of the ears. As you well should.
Is that an order?
Consider it a friendly suggestion and a partner's recommendation.
Partner?
No, I think this is like my favorite portrait. It's so fucking cute. Like, partner. What a peculiar word. Asterion glanced to the side. He had to string every command together. He could feel his eyeballs dragging inside their sockets. He drew a breath, then dug his nails on the palms of his hands. Partner. Used to call him that back in Crete. All the way until that night. A white bird flies off under the moonlight. The Minotaur aimed his bow and drew the string. It was not too difficult from plucking the lyre, the last tension before letting go. For Fronios, for the everlasting friend, but first of all, for his brother, intrepid he set his arrow loose. Partner. They were hunting together at night, but by the end, it's Fronios, Neos, Neospatian, Elemental Hero Neos. That deck is still bad. Trust me, I've tried to make it work. Rainbow Neos is still one hell of a card, though. Not as good as DPE, but you know, that happens. Called him something else, and that was the last they saw of each other. But at times it felt like this master was Furnius and Ghost given flesh. They all had such honeyed tongues. We were business partners. We are business partners, aren't we? We're in this together. Asterion returned from his haze.
I am afraid that is not something the hotel or the valley would even be willing to recognize. My sentence, after all, contracts that stray too far from treating me as a prisoner would be inefficient and ineffective.
What do you mean by that exactly?
The master can command the realm to do his bidding, but there are rules and principles that stand above. If you try to pass a contract or command that disregards them, your order will not become binding. The same way you cannot summon currency, you cannot sign an order saying I am your equal, or would be against the labyrinth's principles. So, I can't be your business partner. As far as the labyrinth is concerned, that is just not possible.
Mr. Josh looks off to the side, lost in thought. Do we really need a contract for this? Now this is quite a puzzle. But does it really matter what the labyrinth thinks or wants? If I tell people you are my partner, and that's objectively how we work together, doesn't that make us partners? What bold ideas. The Minotaur feels the hummingbirds pricking at the back of his skull. He grits his teeth, and Mr. Josh notices. But it would seem we got sidetracked. I was supposed to show you the internet.
Yes, sir.
So tap here. We can begin with a few searches. I'm sure there's a lot you want to know about the outside world. And the particular alphabet popped up on the screen. This time, however, it was stringed into stubborn words that didn't bend to the realm's translation. But they weren't unfamiliar. Memory sparked. Loose strings tied into knots.
The hotel's translation isn't working.
That's weird. I can read it just fine. Although I suppose it's because I already speak English. I wouldn't notice anything going wrong. Is this an issue?
English? No, I can read it. I learned it after we started using typewriters. I can read it. I'll just need a minute to familiarize myself.
Yeah. What language have you been speaking so far?
My language?
What does that mean?
It's my language. It was Cretan. It used to be, but with time if everything gets translated, then I could tinker with it and make it my own. I had a hard time with certain sounds, so I just changed it, made it whatever it felt right. So, it used to be Minoan, but it's not anymore. It's my language.
I think I'm gonna stop the part here. So I'll see you around, everyone.